I've worked in marketing, sales, all sorts of things. And when the night before Sam's accident, if I can just go to that, I got home late from the restaurant, and I had this horror. Sam was staying at a mate's place, and he was to come home that night, but he asked, could he stay the night? He sent me a text. I said, look, that's fine. And but I had a horrible, horrible dream that night that I was being led out of the laneway. The restaurant's in the city in a lane, and I was being led out of that laneway by the police. And I woke up the next morning feeling absolutely really troubled, really, really troubled by what I'd experienced in the dream. And then I realised, I remembered the date, and I remembered that, it's the anniversary of Dad's passing. And Dad passed in a workplace accident when he was just 48, and the police came to tell me about that. So I just put it down to that. But what that premonition did do, it made me ring Sam. So I rang him as I'm walking down to get a tram to go back into work. And we had a great conversation, excuse me, about what he was doing that day, etc. And sorry, my voice is going. He was always very good at saying at the end of a conversation, love you, Mum, which he did, and said that. And an hour and a half later, he was gone. He'd had a horrendous car accident, and just as my premonition was, the police did come to tell me that. So life was going in that direction, and then obviously it just went in that direction. And right from the time that Sam passed away, I always felt a closeness and still a connection to him. My beliefs, not that we ever talked about this as a family, but I've always believed in the afterlife, always. For me, it's been an absolute reality. I could never understand how that little voice within us could ever be silent. And I just knew that instinctively, intuitively, whatever you want to call it. So for me, life was always going to be never ending, infinity. And but when Sam passed, I really, really needed to take it up a level. It wasn't just enough to know that he's okay on the other side. I needed to find him to be sure of that. So I did a lot of strange things that I've never done before. One of them was to see a medium 6 weeks after his passing. And the only reason I did that, I actually didn't know 10 years ago what mediums were. I didn't know what they did, knew nothing about them. And my sister-in-law had been to see one, and she said that Sam had connected with her, and I just was blown away. So I thought, well, I need to find a medium, but I wanted to find a different medium. Something also told me I want someone that knows nothing about me, just to be sure that it is Sam, with whatever happens. So I Googled a name, and a woman's name, Lorraine Culross, came up. And Lorraine, I just said my name was Kerry, that was it, made an appointment, and went home and told Surgeon Carla, I'm off to see a medium to communicate with Sam. And they're like, what's a medium? And I'm like, well, I'm really not that certain, but apparently they communicate with the spirit world. And I think that they thought that Mum's sort of losing it a bit. They were very supportive, and both Carla and Serge were doing mainstream grief counselling with TAC, so the Traffic Accident Commission. That's what they wanted to do. They invited me to join them, and I just was not interested. I don't know why, but I just wasn't. But then when I made the appointment with the medium, Serge said, look, would you please come to grief counselling with me in the morning? We'll see the medium together in the afternoon. So I thought that's fair enough. So that morning, I spoke to Sam, as I do every single day, and had been from the moment he passed, always still talking, communicating, feeling his presence. Excuse me. I said to him, look, sweetheart, Dad and I are going to go and see a medium, and, I don't know what she's going to do. I don't know how you're supposed to, what you're supposed to do either. But I remember giving him the actual time of the appointment, the physical address, please be at this, street number in this suburb, because I couldn't work out how he was going to get there. So I did that, and we went off to grief counselling. I hated it. I cried the whole way through. It was so depressing. There was their thinking is there's no afterlife. It's just they've gone. You need to move on, and it just went against everything that I believed in. She was a wonderful woman. She was lovely, but it just wasn't buying it at all. And I left there in a worse state than when I arrived. And then we went to see the medium, and we went in, and I don't know what I was expecting, but she was just a lovely middle-aged suburban housewife out in the burbs. And we sat down, and she said to us, she said, this has never happened before. She said, normally the spirits don't arrive until my clients, you as the sitters arrive, but I've had a spirit with me all morning waiting. So that just sort of like, oh, wow. I did ask him, and, and Sam obviously listened and was there straight away. Don't ask me, he managed to do that. But, and then she started, her opening words were, you're a mother grieving the loss of your son, aged between 18 and 20, and Sam was 19. And she said, your dad was there. There's also a woman in black, a small woman in black. Serge lost his mum, who's Italian, when he was only 16. So his mum was there as well. So it was the most amazing, amazing experience. And that was just changed my life, because after that, then that is the path I wanted to then explore for myself, about, mediumship. And I'm so glad that Serge came with me as well, because he could not, I said to him, if I'd come home and told you what happened, he said, look, I'd probably want you to have you certified. It makes no sense. But he said, I can't deny what occurred, because I was there. Yeah.
Kerry, do you think that Sam knew in some part of his brain that he was not going to live till an old man?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I can tell you now, Lorraine, he packed a lot into his 19 years. He had a massive friendship base, and Sam had friends from all different circles of life. He never judged anyone. It didn't matter where they were from or where they went to school or whatever. Everyone loved him, and he loved them, and he was always on the go. He embraced everything, every opportunity to try things. So the only word I would change there is not brain. I would change that word to, do you think he knew in his soul that he wasn't going to have a long life? And I would say yes to that, because if we can separate the two, his brain wouldn't know, definitely have no idea. Yeah.
Knowing, in his knowing.
Correct, yes. I think he did have a knowing that he needed to do so much, yeah, and he did.
Yeah, so who was he as a person?
Excuse me, charming, handsome young man, very loved by all of us and his mates. He was a lot of fun, a joker, very warm, very loving. He was one of those boys that would, with his mates, boys and girls, there were lots of hugs, and certainly with us, hugs and kisses. He loved hanging out with the family, but he equally loved being with his friends. He was never afraid to bring his friends home. We were always the party house. All the kids would be at our place, Carla's friends, Sam's friends. So he was sort of never ashamed of us as family. It was just and he was just a beautiful, beautiful young man. And he was having his gap year. Our kids went to Wesley College, and he was having his gap year, and he was due to go to university the next year.
So how, being a mother, how does it feel to lose a son?
Oh, it's indescribable, and it's something that I would never, ever want anyone to go through, ever. But unfortunately we do. And it's not discretionary. It's just, it happens to, to whoever it's going to happen to. And the thing that we have to do, though, whether we want to or not, is keep moving forward, because that's we have no choice. So many people say to me, how do you keep going? How do you live a happy life, and I do live a happy life. I truly do. But it's taken, it's 10 years now, so it's taken. It certainly did not happen immediately. But we have no choice. So we can either dwell in that pool of grief, which is horrendous, and I could not. There's no way, no, and I'm going back to that. Or we can just, I don't know, just stagnate, and that has no appeal to me either. I want to keep the, living and enjoying, things and opportunities. And I also think as a parent, we need to set an example for our children. I've still got Carla, and it would be just awful if I could not help myself. So how could I help her? And I know that my own positivity has helped Carla, it's helped Sergio, and it's helped all of our family actually, and also Sam's friends.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because we still, every year, we still celebrate his birthday. We've just had his 29th birthday. We go to a local pub, the drinks are flowing, we put the food on, and it gets bigger and bigger every year. And now we've got all of these wonderful 28 and 29-year-old young men and women. Some are engaged, some are married. There's, babies, and it's just, not that they bring babies along, but they love it too, that we've been so open about our own emotions right from the beginning. They've seen the rawness, and they've also seen us healing as we move through life, and that has helped them heal. So we're never afraid to talk about Sam. We laugh about the things that the memories, and that's what we want. Like, please don't ever not talk about him, because we want people to talk about him, because for us, he's still very much a part of our life, and always will be.
Because that's what they used to do in the olden days. I know my dad's sister died at 16, and nobody talked about her after that. It was like she was never around.
It's like they didn't exist. And I think that's just horrendous. And because of my beliefs and what I do now as a medium, like, they are there, they are watching, they see what goes on. And could you imagine how hurtful that would be for them in spirit, to just see your family just like closed down, your name's never mentioned, your birthdays are never celebrated, your photos may even be taken down. I mean, that's just awful. And it's that we have a completely different approach to that, and that is what has helped us and helped so many other people who are grieving, because they can actually see, well, gee, we don't have to remain in that sad, morbid place, because I can tell you now, our spirit, for loved ones in spirit, do not want to see us there. They want to see us smiling again, enjoying life again, traveling, doing things.
Yes. So what do you actually do to get over the death of a child? I mean, what do people do? And is it different for everybody?
Yes, it is very different, but I may also say you never actually get over it. There's just, you never get over it, but you learn how to still live a different way. So some days, you never know where your emotions are. And some days I can be really tearful still, and then other days I can talk about Sam really easily without crying. It's just, but I always do talk about Sam if anyone asks me about him. And I do speak a lot in groups and to groups and so on, about Sam and our life and so on. But it's something you never get over, but it's something that you learn to adjust to. And I've been doing quite a bit of speaking recently with a group called Helping Parents Heal, which is an international group that started in the USA. And I've been speaking, the UK branch actually made my first book, A Mother's Journey, a story of everlasting love and evidence of life after death. They made it the book club book for February, which was really lovely. And then I was their Zoom guest at the end of the month to talk about it. And it was wonderful to engage with these mums, you know, on Zoom, and they could ask me whatever they wanted. And of course, it's an emotional talk, and from, you know, listening to them as well. And they're all at different stages of their grief. And those, you know, they loved the fact that after reading the book, that it gave them hope to maybe look at a different way of how they're moving forward, and just in a more positive way. And for me, that was wonderful. And I spoke to the Indian group on Monday night, the lovely ladies in India, and I've also spoken to the Australian group, and I'm speaking to the Canadian group in September, and the American group's coming up as well. So it's wonderful to have the opportunities to share with other parents what we've done. And the path I've taken is most certainly not for everyone. It's a little unusual, you know, becoming a medium in your 50s, but that's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does a normal mum, what's a normal mum? Sorry. How does a mother heal so she can move forward? What does she have to physically do? Is there anything she physically can do?
I think you have to listen to what feels right for you, and not be, sometimes people on the outside mean really well, and and their intentions are good, but they insist you should be doing this, and you should be, you know, doing, whether it be grief counseling, things. All of those things aren't right for everybody. So
Yeah.
I think you very much have to follow what you feel is right. If you feel that normal counselling, grief counselling is the right path, do that. If you feel that seeing a medium is the right path, do that as well. If you feel like just reading different books is right, do that. It's not prescriptive. It's very much whatever will work for you. But what I started doing initially was desperately, trying to find books that would explain to me more about the afterlife, what happens when you pass away, where are they, like, you know, like, where are they? And so that is why I could never find a book that actually answered all of my questions as a parent, and also about moving forward with grief and so on. And that's why I wrote A Mother's Journey. I wrote it 5 years after Sam's passing, because by then I'd done so much of my own work, I guess, on myself, that I was able to put in words and write a book that I wished existed when I was looking for something to read.
Yes.
Yeah. But everyone handles it differently. And I think that men and women in many ways handle it differently too. Yeah, I think we're way more open as women. Men are more guarded. And I remember when I was writing the book, because obviously it's a story it's our story. It's about, it starts when I was a 12-year-old, and when I met my husband, he was 12 as well at high school, but we didn't start going out till we were 29. So, but they were good friends, and then we lost touch after school finished for the next 10 years, and then reconnected at a high school reunion. And then I talk about, us going out, getting married, having the children, and then progression from there, and then obviously on to Sam's accident, and so on. And then there's stories there about my family as well. But I kept saying to Serge and Carla, do you guys want to read, the manuscript before it gets published? Because it's your story too. And they're like, oh, I don't know if we can. It's, might be upsetting. And I'm like, I said, it might be, but, and in the end, they just said, no, we trust you. So I finished it, it got published. And I just presented them both with here's your copies. I can't change anything. But they both read it and were absolutely thrilled that the way I handled everyone's stories. But Serge said I could never be that open with anyone, but he said, I'm glad you were, because I was able to express, I guess, the family's feelings on behalf of all of us.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah. Whereas they wouldn't have, but for me, it was so important to do that.
My personal opinion is, yes, men are more closed and more reserved and don't express it to the same way that we do. And we can talk to girlfriends about that sort of thing. how do we support the men in our life that have lost a kid? You know, they would be in so much turmoil, but not being able to share it. How do you support a husband?
Yeah, I think because Serge could see the strength that I gained from my beliefs in my mediumship, and then when I started sitting in a development circle, which is where I should mention we first met all those years ago,
Yeah.
and um, and then I started going off to England studying mediumship at Arthur Findlay College, and Serge could see me changing and becoming that strong person again, and enjoying life again. And I think when your energy rubs off on everyone else, so that positivity in me became his positivity as well. And like I wouldn't try and explain to him what I do at the college studying mediumship, because he just he wouldn't get it. It's just like, but he's very happy that I'm doing it because he can see that I'm a much happier person. But he I think it's just about being supportive to them and allowing them to encourage them to talk about the children that they've lost,
Mhm.
excuse me, or whoever it may be that they've lost. I've done a lot of readings for men as well, and they'll often come with their wife, and you can tell that they're sitting back and a bit, but then as their children come through, they're sort of sitting forward and, like, oh my God. And I remember once doing a reading, and I said to the dad, who really started to warm up as we got into it, but he was very, hands off it initially. I said to him, "You're wearing your son's shirt." And he said, "No, I'm not. No." And his wife looked at him and said, "Yes, you are. It is our son," and gave his name. "I put it in the wardrobe. It's for you because it was a new shirt, but it was his." And the dad's like, "Oh my God," so it was, and that really touched something with him, like, because as the stuff that we bring through, we don't know anything, and it's just what they want to impart on us, and that is a game changer as well, because you can see the healing that starts to occur in right there and then in the room, because it allows them to change their perception, I guess, of, oh wow, maybe it's real, that there is an afterlife and my son or daughter lives on in it.
Maybe they're still there.
Yes, which they are.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of people have PTSD too after losing children.
Yes.
35%, I believe, of parents.
Yes, and which is horrific, and also a lot of marriages fail. A lot
Yes.
of marriages fail, and I really believe that, even the strongest of marriages, I can see why you are tested, and I was just so lucky that we went the other way. We always had a very close relationship, but it's even become closer because it's a joint loss. But it's and Serge's whole thinking about death has changed completely because of what I do as well, and that has changed. That has helped him so much as well. So yeah,
What did he believe when Sam passed away?
he's dead.
And that's it. End
Yeah,
of story. Black, white, nothing else.
I don't think he'd honestly ever thought about, even though when he lost his own mum at 16, I don't think he'd ever, for a lot of people, they just think that's it, that's final, there's blackness and nothing. And that's never been on my radar. But his mum was very religious. She was Catholic, but his dad was absolute atheist and hated the church because he grew up in war-torn Sicily. And, his papa's belief was, if there was a God, and that everyone worships this God in the church, why are we starving? Why are we war torn? And, fair question. But so he was very anti, and he discouraged all forms of religion with his children, Serge and his brother and sister, whereas Serge's mum was a real believer, but probably had to practice quite quietly. Yeah, so Whereas for me, I mean, I grew up in a normal Australian household, went to Sunday school, Church of England sort of upbringing, but not religious. You know, we went to
Mm.
church on Christmas and Easter and, you know, and as I said, Sunday school. But for me, and this sounds really odd, and I hope I'm not going too far off track here, but I've always separated God and religion. So I believe in God, but I don't believe in religion, if that makes sense, because I don't believe in the confines of the church. I believe there is a God. I can't describe what that person or any, you know, is, but I don't believe that people should have to be told how to live, what they can and can't do, and this fear-based religion that you fear God and there's hell and the devil and oh my God, it's to me that's utter rubbish. And this is only my. I hope I don't offend people by saying that,
I
but
agree.
yeah. So that's my belief. But I believe that there is some sort of greater energy that is responsible for the spirit world, and so that is what my belief is. So and that, as I said before, has been there since childhood. Yeah,
Mm.
and no one taught me that. I just knew.
Yeah, I agree. I feel exactly the same way. Yeah, exactly the same way. I think all religions are same, but different.
Yeah, yeah. And look, we did the strangest things with the children. Like I wanted to have them christened, um, but and this sounds terrible, but I decided that look, to me that I don't. If you're going to go to church, I don't really care what the brand is, whether it's Presbyterian, Catholic, Church of England. It's just a brand. So I decided. Serge was not interested in having them christened, but he said whatever you want to do. So I had them. We had them christened in the Catholic Church. And this is where I was being really selfish because just in case when they got to high school, there was a Catholic high school, secondary school that we thought they should go to, and then they would be accepted because they're christened there. That was my only reason for doing that, but I wanted to have them christened. So I know that sounds really weird, and they didn't go to Catholic; they went to Uniting at Wesley. But when Sam's funeral came about, we ended up having we did have a Catholic priest because I did want a minister. Once again, I didn't care which church really, but because they had been christened in the Catholic Church. And I also stressed that I didn't want it to be a religious service. So it was a private service at Faulkner. And even though it was a private service, there was still, I think, 97 people at the private service before we went on to the memorial. But he did a lovely blessing, and he didn't make it about religion and the Catholic Church, because Sam, he personally did not believe in religion at all. But I did want to, as I said, have that. So it was more about a few prayers, but it was mainly about music and just, a lovely words shared by us. But then when we went off for his memorial service, we actually had it at the Moonee Valley Racecourse, which I know sounds like, why? Because our daughter Carla said we need somewhere really big. And I'm like, well, how big is big? Sam was only 19 and she's like, Mum, Dad, we need a really big venue.
Yes.
And so we had it there, and there were 1,000 people at his funeral, which was absolutely amazing. And about 8 of his mates all spoke, and a beautiful friend of mine read out my words because I couldn't possibly stand up and do that. I could write them, and that was hard enough. I wrote them on Mother's Day, actually. That was the day I wrote my words for Sam. And Serge spoke, and bless Carla, she spoke, and Serge's brother and sister. And it was this amazing celebration of his life. And that's what we wanted, to honour him in that way.
Mm. What do you say to someone who loses a child? Because I don't know, and I believe a lot of people don't know either, so therefore tend to stay away. So where you need support, we can't support you because we don't know what to say to you.
Yeah, and that is a great question, because the first thing you need to do is take yourself outside your comfort zone and not worry about how you're feeling, because it is about the person that has had the loss. So I was so grateful, as hard as it was for everyone. Our house was immediately filled with people, family, friends, neighbours that we didn't even really know. They came, And that just blew me away, because it was such the most amazing distraction. There were plates of food. There's old friends manning our kitchen, dispensing cups of tea and coffee and wine and beer, and it was just amazing. And they never stopped coming, and I think that's so important. And Sam's name was used from the very beginning, and a lot of people who had never met him would actually say, "Can I see a photo of Sam?" And slowly this little shrine of photos ended up on the dining table, because we'd get another photo and they'd be there. And we all, because of the way we were able to share the memories of Sam, I think they looked at us and thought, "Oh my God, this family's not a weeping wreck in the corner of the room. They are actually wanting to talk about their son, so therefore we should join in that conversation." And that made it so much easier for everybody else. And we've always handled it in that way. And so people have never stopped coming. So I say to anyone that is worried about seeing someone for the first time, whether they've lost a child or a sibling or a partner, just give them a hug. Sometimes words aren't even, you don't even have to go through the "I'm so sorry, da, da, da." So you can just say, "I'm just thinking of you." And they know what that means. We don't have to spell it out. And then you can just talk to them, like, if you want to, do you want to talk about anything? And then you'll just feel out what they want to do, but don't stay away from them, because that's the worst thing you can do, is staying away. Yeah, but give them space as well. But as in, when you're with them, if they want to cry, let them cry. Don't smother them, and just let them. But don't stay away.
My daughter said, actually, she said 3 months after her husband passed away, she said there was no one there.
That's so sad. That is so sad. Yeah.
And that's what she said. That's when I really felt it, because there was just no one there.
Yeah, no, and
I thought they'd done their duty, and that was it.
Yeah, it's if you're a true friend, it's not a matter of ticking a box. Yeah, we went to see them and I took 6 scones and a bottle of wine or something. It doesn't work like that. It's about being there, seeing what they want. I remember one of my very close girlfriends, she actually said, "Do you want me to take you back?" I know this sounds morbid, but it wasn't. I wanted her to do it and come with me. Even though I'd gone to the site of the car accident with Surgeon Carla the night after. And when we got there, there was so many kids there, young 18, 19-year-olds holding a vigil. And when they realized who we were, they all stood and sort of, oh my God, it was so emotional. But I went back with my girlfriend, Jen, and we just cried there. But it was good to do that, and she knew what to do by just listening to me, and I think feeling into what I wanted to do rather than insisting on other stuff.
Yeah.
But some people you never see again after that. I don't know why. They just either can't handle it. I know I've lost some friends through my mediumship, because they just think I've gone bonkers, or they don't believe in it, and that's fine too. I also believe that some friendships run their course, and I've had a few of those that have.
Yeah. So what are the psychological effects of losing a child on you and Serge? Is there, or on other people, is there psychological effects that can really play with them for years later?
Definitely for some people, yes. For us, we have always maintained a positiveness. So I would say no for us, but I can't speak for everyone else, because I know there are other people who, even years on, are still back in that corner in a crouch position. But that was not the choice that I wanted to make, or that any of us wanted to make. And it is a choice. I know that, and I don't want to sound selfish by saying that, but I honestly believe it is a choice. You can choose to remain there, or you can gather all your strength and move forward.
That's true with everything in life, though, Kerry.
Yeah, it is true. And so for those that choose to stay back there, yes, the psychological pain and impact on their life, and those around them, it's horrific. But I could not do that. I just can't. You know, I've still got so much living to do, living to memories and things to create now still with Serge and Carla, but also knowing that Sam is there with me to do that, and cheering us on, like, you go guys, you know, like, just keep remembering me, but I'm still with you, and I think that's so important.
Because how do you, this is what I find absolutely amazing, is how do you actually get up and face life again after that initial loss? You know, 2 or 3 weeks later, how do you get up and say, okay, I'm going out today and I'm going to get dressed and I'm going to go and have a coffee with a friend? How do you push through it?
Yeah, you just have to. It's a piecemeal situation, step by step by step. But this is also where it was wonderful with friends coming all the time. I had to get up every morning because there'd be people there, you know, dropping things off, floral deliveries coming in. What can we get for you? What can we, you know, it was just, and so you just kept going as best you could. And then, you know, and I went back to work, I think 1 month later, and that was really, really hard, because people, I was at our restaurant that we co-own in the city at the time, and people would come up to me and say, oh, I haven't seen you for ages, where have you been? And, you know, and then you'd sort of say, and had a loss in the family. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Who was it? And then you say your son, and then they like, oh my God, then they're in tears and you're in tears. And that was really hard, because everyone in the laneway knew us, and it was a laneway of restaurants. And the support that I had there was amazing. Not only the restaurateurs all put in and had this magnificent camellia, not camellia, I can't think of what type, it wasn't a camellia, but a beautiful flowering lilac or something like that, delivered to the restaurant, you know, as a gift, which we still have now upstairs in our new place on the balcony. And the young ones that worked there were from all over the world, and they would all gravitate to our restaurant at lunchtime just to all sit together and sit outside with me. Some of them knew Sam, because Sam did some part-time work at our restaurant as a waiter. Some didn't know Sam, but they knew the story, and they were amazing. And they did that every day for weeks and months, just to be there. Yeah, amazing.
So, Kerry, if you hadn't have lost Sam, you would have just still been a restaurateur or going along with life normally. But losing Sam has changed you.
Yes, I would have. Yes. What is interesting is the ability that I have has always been within me, the mediumship ability, but I was never meant to find it until Sam's passing. So I do think that if Sam hadn't passed, that ability would still be within me, and I still would have just been very intuitive in the way I was able to read people just naturally, but I would never have done anything with that there. And yes, I would have just either continued in the restaurant or gone on, and after the restaurant, I've gone on and done other, all sorts of other stuff. And now, you know, I'm now writing books and speaking and work as a medium. But had Sam not passed, those other things would not, you know, that wouldn't have happened. But I'm also someone that, you know, I can't change what I can't change. So therefore, what am I going to do? And for me, it's about, as I keep saying, moving forward. But Sam's still with me on that journey. And
yes, so Sam gave you the biggest gift ever, didn't he?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I've had so many mediums do readings for me when I'm over at Arthur Findlay College in the UK, and these are the tutors, and they're saying to me, I've never really experienced this to this level, Kerry, that your son is so much helping you with your mediumship and want supporting with you in every way. You know, they can't, for them, even, and I'm talking about tutors with loads of experience, they're saying, I've never felt that from the spirit world before, how supportive they are, which is amazing.
Mm. So how has all this affected Serge in his life going forward?
He leads a very, very positive life, very happy life as well. Yet, of course, he has his sad times as well. And, you know, but he also is very, very, he loves it when we have the parties for Sam for his birthdays and he's with his mates. And sometimes Serge goes out with Sam's mates, you know, they'll just take Serge out for drinks, or other times it's us, Carla as well. You know, we're starting now to go to weddings and engagements, and we go to their, you know, that we get invited. We're part of the extended family of all of these adult kids now, and that's really helped Serge. It's helped me. It's helped Carla. So Serge leads a very full life. He's a cyclist. He rides regularly. He's as fit as a fiddle. He's got loads of mates. He still travels with his cycling. You know, I'll be in England doing my mediumship. He's riding. We meet up over there. You know, life is good, you know, and we've been able to recreate a different life because it can't be the old life.
And how's it affected Carla? How's Carla moved on?
She's amazing as well. She has a long-term partner. They've been together since they were 18. So it's been 13 years now, or coming up. She's also a real traveler. She works professionally in public relations, and she's not as, I mean, I think she struggles with trying to get her head around the mediumship thing in the spirit world, but I believe that a part of her definitely believes in it because she has had a couple of readings herself with other people, other mediums, and Sam's been there. But she and Sam were incredibly, incredibly close. But I believe that they still, you know, that she's still very much, you know, she knows she has her brother somewhere else. But she's been able to cope with life in the same way that we have. And I think that's, once again, just about setting that example that we can all get through this in a positive way.
So you've led the family in some ways out of the dark.
I think so. And it was it wasn't something that was intended. It's just something that happened. Because earlier on, when all of the funeral things were being organised, I couldn't do a thing. When it came down to all of that practical stuff, it was Serge and Carla who did all of it, choosing the actual plot, you know, organising everything. You know, I did things like music and writing my words and things like that. But as I said, I couldn't stand up and speak at Sam's service. My beautiful friend Leanne did that. You know, I couldn't do a lot of those things then, and they were the really strong ones. But then once after having that mediumship reading, and then I really understood that side of it, then I was the one that became the stronger one, if that makes sense to you. Yeah.
Took the reins then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because my whole perception of everything just changed. Like, hang on, I just, this is a new path, you know, and the connection is like, it's there. Yeah.
So have you got different advice for different stages after the death of a child that you'd give? So, you know, 2 months after the death of a child, would you say it's different? Would you give different advice to someone who's 5 years down the track?
I wouldn't. I would just say to everyone, once again, you do what feels right for you.
Yeah.
There's no, you know, some people 2 years on are coping brilliantly. Some people 15 years on are still back in the corner. So it's, you can't say to anyone, it would be so offensive to say to someone, oh God, it's been 7 years, like, you know, what is wrong? You know, but I'm amazed. I had this young woman who was not a friend, and it was just someone I knew. She said to me, are you over it yet? And I honestly felt like slapping her. And this was within the first 6 months of Sam's passing. And I couldn't even answer her. I don't know what I did. And then other people, you know, they just, you know, they'll say very insensitive things like, you know, time will heal, and well, they're meaning well, but those things actually aren't that helpful. It's more about finding out what you can do for that person who's grieving, rather than putting these stock standard, you know, generic things on it. But definitely I wouldn't say to someone, okay, you're at the 2-month mark now, you should be feeling this. Okay, you're now at 6 months. You know, it doesn't work like that. It's very much just being there for people whenever they need you and whatever they need from you. Some people can't even cook a meal anymore, or go to the shops because they're afraid they're going to run into someone, and it would be really helpful if you know that your friend is in that situation, offer to do the shopping for them, you know, or let's go together and do the shopping, you know, until they're actually feeling able to face the public again.
That's interesting, because it never occurred to me to go and offer that sort of a help.
Yeah, practical help. Practical help. That's what people need. You know, you might go past someone's house and the garden's out of control, and it's never been like that until that, you know, till they've lost someone. Go in, you know, just or just mow their lawns, you know, just do something, you know, that they're the really practical things that will help people.
So is there anything you'd like to say to the audience about either dealing with someone who's lost a child or with the person who's lost the child?
I just think it's really important just to, as I keep saying, to really feel what will work for you. And I don't want to be someone that's just pushing mediumship, because I know mediumship is not for everybody. I'm really aware of that. But I can tell you, if you are curious or open to it, it's the most wonderful way to start healing, because once a good communication is made with a respected medium, then it does open up so many like what ifs for you, you know, and that, to me, that would be, I'm so glad that is the path that I took. But as I stress, if grief counselling is what you need, then do that. And it's just, but it's about, I would also really recommend not closing down on using the you know, your loved ones' names. Talk about them, share memories, because by talking about them with the family, then everyone, you'd be amazing how many, you know, times you laugh at family functions, that we laugh about the funny things Sam's done and so on. And I just think it's really important to just give everyone the opportunity to not feel bad about laughing and sharing. It's gone are those days, as you said before, Lorraine, where we can't say anything. It's a different perspective now. It really is.
Kerry, thank you so much for talking to the audience today. Thank you for talking to me. You've opened my eyes, and I really appreciate it. And I've got even more respect for you.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you asking me to come on, and I do hope that I've helped people who are listening, and if they want to get in contact with me to ask me anything, well, they can do that as well. Beautiful.
You've got social media?
I do. I've got a website, which is Kerry, Kerry Alderuccio, ALDERUCCIO.com. And my email is kerry@kerryalderuccio.com. And I'm also on Facebook as well. So yeah, and my books, can I hold one up?
Yes.
That's A Mother's Journey, A Story of Everlasting Love and Evidence of Life After Death. And that is the other one that I've written as well, to actually help people lots of, there's 17 mini biographies in the other one, Demystifying Mediumship, where mediums are actually talking about the healing that they've been able to help other people with. And that's 17 other mediums from all around the world have shared their biographies with me, and I've written their stories. So, and those books are widely available, Amazon worldwide, Booktopia, Dimmicks, Angus and Robertson, all of those places.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Kerry, really fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for today.
You're welcome. Thanks, Lorraine. Thank you.